South Africa's political landscape has just been hit by a bombshell that feels like the final crack in an already fractured system. What began as a seemingly routine police operation has spiraled into a full-blown national crisis, exposing once again the gaping chasm between the country's leadership and its people. Late on Tuesday evening, elite units from the South African Police Services Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, the Hawks, executed a search warrant at one of President Cyril Ramaphosa's private residences in Johannesburg. What they allegedly found has left even seasoned investigators stunned. Millions of rands in cash, along with substantial amounts in US dollars, concealed in hidden compartments built into walls, beneath floorboards, and inside custom-made furniture. Sources familiar with the operation, speaking on condition of anonymity, described the discovery as breathtaking in its scale and sophistication. Bundles of banknotes, some still in bank-sealed wrappers, were reportedly packed so tightly that officers had to use crowbars and specialist tools to extract them. One investigator told journalists off the record, "This wasn't a shoebox under the bed. This was professional concealment. The kind you see in organized crime cases, not in the home of a sitting head of state." The raid was not random. It stemmed from a wider probe into alleged money laundering networks linked to politically exposed persons within the upper echelons of the African National Congress, ANC. Intelligence received months earlier pointed to large, unexplained cash flows moving through entities connected to individuals in Ramaphosa's immediate orbit. Tuesday's search was the culmination of that intelligence. Within hours, the news detonated across the country. Social media platforms lit up with fury and disbelief. Ramaphosa raid, cut cash in the walls, and Fala 2 trended nationwide as South Africans vented years of accumulated frustration. He lectures us about sacrifice while sitting on mountains of cash, read one viral post that captured the public mood perfectly. Opposition parties moved with lightning speed. Democratic Alliance leader John Steenhuisen demanded Ramaphosa's immediate suspension and an independent judicial commission of inquiry, calling the discovery the most damning evidence yet that the ANC remains rotten to its core. The economic freedom fighters went further, labeling the president the chief looter and vowing to mobilize mass action if he does not step aside within days. Inside the ANC itself, panic has set in. Luthuli House, the party's Johannesburg headquarters, has become a bunker. Senior officials are holding crisis meetings deep into the night, torn between those who believe Ramaphosa must front up immediately with a detailed explanation and those who fear any statement now will only deepen the damage. Several cabinet ministers have gone silent. Phones go unanswered. WhatsApp profiles disappear. This is not the president's first brush with unexplained millions. South Africans still remember the 2020 Fala farm scandal, when $580,000 in cash was stolen from a couch on his game farm in Limpopo. Money he initially claimed came from the legitimate sale of buffalo. That saga already bettered his reputation as the Mr. Clean, who would finally rid the ANC of the corruption that flourished under Jacob Zuma. Now, many are openly calling this Fala 2.0. Except this time, the cash was allegedly found inside his personal home, not a commercial farm, and the amounts are said to dwarf the previous scandal. The timing could not be worse. Unemployment is hovering near 33%. Youth joblessness is over 60%. Inflation is biting, and load shedding continues to cripple the economy. For ordinary citizens struggling to put food on the table, images, still unverified but widely circulated among journalists, of pallets of cash hidden behind presidential walls feel like a personal betrayal. By Wednesday morning, small but angry protests had already begun outside the union buildings in Pretoria and outside Ramaphosa's private residence in Hyde Park. Placards read, "Our children go hungry while he hides millions, and no one is above the law, not even the president. Legal pressure is mounting fast. Section 89 impeachment motions are being prepared. Public protector advocacy groups have filed urgent applications compelling full disclosure of the president's financial interests. The South African Revenue Service has confirmed it is reviewing all relevant declarations made by Ramaphosa in recent years. Investigators are now racing to trace the serial numbers on the recovered banknotes, particularly the foreign currency bundles. Early indications, according to sources, suggest some of the US dollars entered the country years ago and may be linked to transactions that never passed through formal banking channels. The most explosive question hanging over everything: did the president know? Two scenarios are being whispered in corridors of power. The first, and most damaging, is that Ramaphosa was fully aware of the hidden fortune and that it represents the proceeds of questionable deals kept deliberately off the books. The second, only marginally less ruinous, is that individuals within his inner circle used his private residence as a safe house for illicit funds without his knowledge, a scenario that would still shatter public trust in his judgment and control over his own environment. Either way, the political fallout is likely to be seismic. Analysts who once predicted Ramaphosa would limp through to the 2027 ANC elective conference are now openly discussing the possibility that this scandal ends his presidency long before then. For now, South Africa waits, angry, exhausted, and desperate for the truth. The man who promised a new dawn after the Zuma era finds that dawn darkening fast. Hidden behind the walls of his own home, millions in cash may have just become the spark that finally sets the ANC's house ablaze. This story is developing by the hour. Whatever comes next, a presidential address, criminal charges, or mass upheaval on the streets, one thing is certain: South African politics will never be quite the same again.